Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be tier ranking romance tropes. But before we get into it, I wanted to thank the sponsor of today's video and tell you a little bit about Caesar. Now, when Caesar reached out to me initially, I was thinking to myself, I don't know what I would do with a personal document scanner. Like, is that something I actually have need for in my life? But once I got it here in my home, I realized that this is something that I personally can't live without. Caesar makes some really interesting products, a lot of document scanners and webcams, and just tools that could be used in a variety of versatile different ways. The scanner that I personally have is the ET24 Pro. Not only can I use this to scan in beautiful images from cookbooks that Hayden and I personally really enjoy. I'm trying to like digitize a lot of things in our life right now, but I can also use this device to help me with my YouTube channel. If you didn't know, I have a second channel where I do planning content, but it has been really challenging for me to be consistent on that channel because trying to aim a camera over my planner and show y'all kind of like what I have, you know, on my pages has been really challenging for me. It's a pain to set up, a pain to take down. The E24 Pro has literally solved all of my problems. All I have to do is plug it in and open up the software and I see my planner right in front of me. I don't have to do anything tricky to get it to work. I'm not having to like crane my neck or like reach around my camera like leaning over my planner anymore. I can just use this amazing book scanner anytime I want to film planner content, which I totally love. And I also like that the footprint of it is not too terribly big. I can leave it out on my desk. I'm actually going to take down the kind of like swinging arm that I have on my desk and just have this kind of to the right. It just looks nicer in my opinion, and it's so much easier to use. So I will leave a link in the description down below to Caesar's website if you want to check any of their products out. I know they also have a webcam that seems really cool. You can document scan with it and like use it as a webcam or video conferencing, which seems super cool. And there's also a discount down below that y'all can check out. So thanks again to Caesar for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now let's get into the tier ranking. All right, let's go ahead and get tier ranking. I'm super excited to be doing this. I actually haven't looked through this tier list in its entirety. When I was looking for which, you know, tier list I wanted to use, I knew for sure I didn't want to make my own because I knew I'd leave something out, and I just kind of wanted to get my like kind of off-cuff responses. I feel like if I had made the tier list myself, I would already had like answers before like stepping into the video, and I want to actually like think on camera with you and like kind of show you my thought process as to why I am tier ranking in the order that I'm ranking. I'll leave a link in the description to Sarah's video down below. Haven't watched through her video yet because I didn't want to be spoiled for the tropes, but I'm going to be watching it after I film my own version of it. But obviously check out her video first. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm very interested to see how I feel about these different tropes, and maybe you'll get more of a feel for my taste in tropes. I've done a video where I talk about tropes I love and tropes I hate. I'll leave links to those in the description down below. Some of those are like not tropes, they're just like specific things in books I like or don't like. These are like standard tropes, and maybe I left some of those out on my hate and love list. All right, so first up we have student teacher. This one is tough for me because it's one of those tropes that I like when I'm reading a book if I'm able to kind of like suspend my disbelief a little bit. I feel like it's one of those tropes that I definitely am not cool with in real life. Like I definitely think there's a power imbalance there, but in a book sometimes you want some escapism, and I feel like some things are okay in books that I just like wouldn't be okay with in real life. I'm gonna say honestly, if it's done right, I tend to like it, but I don't want to say it doesn't hit unless done right. I want to say I usually enjoy it. I mean, honestly, I usually do enjoy that trope. Not in real life, but I do enjoy the trope. All right, next up we have, well, Pickle's being super cute behind me, but next up we have fake dating. This trope, I feel like if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said that I'm not a big fan of it, or like it doesn't hit unless it's done right. But I've been realizing more and more that fake dating is just that girl. I really feel like I will read pretty much any book with this trope because I feel like it is just the gateway to all other tropes. It is so delicious, and I feel like you get all kinds of fun opportunities there. The only one bad trope always like accompanies fake dating if it's a good book. There is such room there for there to be like a little bit of miscommunication, which I personally love. I just love this trope. Would it happen in real life? Is it something that like I think feels realistic at all? No. But again, books are for the escapism. I'm not here for the realism. I'm here for a good time. Next up we have sports romance. This one, ooh, it's really tough. You know what? I think, again, like if you'd asked me a year ago, I probably would have put this one at I'll read any book with this trope. But I think at this point, I'm just gonna say I usually enjoy it because I feel like after you've read one sports romance, I don't want to say they all blend together because there's obviously still room for unique aspects, but I feel like lately I've just been reading a lot of sports romances all kind of feel the same, which I don't love. Like I want some unique aspects. It doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't need like a million different like game winning scenes, but I want there to be like a reason for sports to be included. And I think sometimes it's just to like make the hero seem sexier, but in something like The Right Move by Liz Tomford, like the sports contribute to the romance. Oh, I love it. Okay, I do love this trope a lot, but I don't think it's like my top tier. Next up we have forced proximity. This one, I think I'm also gonna say I usually enjoy it. This is a trope that I think is super, super fun, but it's not one of those tropes that I think is instantly going to make a story amazing, right? Like just because two people are like forced to be together doesn't mean I'm always gonna love it, especially if the forced proximity is with two characters who like butt heads a lot. Sometimes it can be fun, right? If it's like an enemies to lovers forced proximity and like it's done well, but I think sometimes like I just think the forced proximity is annoying. I'm like, I don't want to see these two people bicker. You know what? I'm actually gonna move this one to not my fave, but also not my least fave. Like I like it, but I think that it's too general of a trope to always work for me. Does that make sense? Bad boy, good girl. I'm gonna say doesn't hit unless it's done right. So often we get this bad boy who is like just kind of an asshole. I think that this trope's a little bit overdone at this point. Like we've been over it, we've been through it, and usually we have like the good girl who is not like other girls, which is kind of my issue with this trope, right? Like I don't want the whole not like other girls thing, and that is so often done with the bad boy, good girl. He's like, oh, she's so different, and I am so amazed by her long skirts instead of the short skirts, and she doesn't wear lip gloss like other girls. Like, no. Next up, Mafia Romance. Going to put this one as not a vibe/fan. It's not that I actually don't like this trope or subgenre, I actually do, but as I was saying in a video recently, I just think that Mafia Romance is so easily done poorly. I think it's just an excuse to have a lot more like gore and high stakes violence on the page, and I don't want there to be like a constant threat of assault in my romance. Like that's usually what Mafia Romance equals, and I don't like that. I mean, I love the idea of adding like additional plot and stakes, but I don't necessarily think that like Mafia Romance is like the best avenue for that, which is a bummer because I love the idea of it. And there's a handful of Mafia Romances I do enjoy. Again, let me know in the comments down below. I think I asked this on the last video that I filmed. Oh no, actually, I haven't even posted that video yet. It's coming. I think it's coming on Sunday. I read a Mafia Romance I didn't like, and I asked y'all if you wanted to see my recommendations for Mafia Romances that are actually good and I actually liked. I can make that for you. So let me know if you want to see that. But it's far and few between that I actually like Mafia Romance. Next up, we have Grumpy/Sunshine. I'm gonna get rid of it. I really am. I'm so sorry. I'm so sick of this trope. And it's not that I'm not gonna read a book of the Grumpy Sunshine trope, but I feel like more often than not, if I see that that is like the only trope that's being advertised and it's the dude that's grumpy, I'm out of there. I'm sorry. I just am. I think that has been so overdone over the past year or two, and again, it's just an excuse for the hero to be awful to the heroine. I like another trope, I'm pretty sure that's going to be on here, maybe? Yeah, it is on here. And you're gonna be like, okay, the contradiction, okay, sure. But I think with a Grumpy Sunshine romance, the lines are not clear enough. And I feel like oftentimes, yeah, the grumpiness is just an excuse for the hero to be awful to the heroine. And it's not really a way for there to be really good stakes. I think it's lazy writing. I'm gonna say it. I think Grumpy Sunshine is often lazy. Let's just move on. Let's just move on before I make anybody else angry. Bodyguard Romance. I think I'm gonna put this as haven't read. I've definitely read some Bodyguard romances in my time, but I don't feel like I've read enough to really have a fully formed opinion on this trope. I love the idea of it, right? Like having someone who looks over you and is a protector. If you've ever watched, I think it's called The Royals. It used to be on E, and then they stopped like making scripted dramas. There was a delicious like bodyguard romance there. Princess of England and her bodyguard, but she was like blackmailed. Oh, it's so good. You gotta go watch it just for that relationship. The show's cheesy, but that relationship is everything. Anyway, I haven't read a lot of this trope. I watched that show and I loved it in that show. And if I could read a book that had that same vibe, I'd be so into it. I think the only like real bodyguard romances I've read at this point, now that I'm thinking about it, are Twisted Games by Anna Huang, one of the like Krista and Becca Ritchie series, like the one where it's like Maximov, what did they call him? Mafia and like his Pharaoh, is that his name? Anyway, right person, wrong time. Yeah, 100%. I will read any book with this trope. It is top tier. To me, this is like giving second chance romance, but the hero didn't mess up the first time. Vibes. And I've never been able to really like put a word or like a phrase or a trope to this thing, but I guess that's what it is, right person, wrong time. Like when the people have been maybe not pining for each other the entire time, but like they were children or like they were in high school and they had this thing where they both liked each other, but they couldn't be together for whatever reason, and then they like try to have a relationship later on. I love that because it's not like one of the characters messed up and has to like make amends in the present. It's more like we just never really got the opportunity, and so it makes the tension and angst so delicious. I love this trope. You will get more of my taste as we continue on, but like for me, if there's angst and tension, count me in. I feel like the tropes that I tend to like less are the ones that I don't think have as much angst and tension potential. All right, next up we have the only one bed trope. I think I'm gonna put this in doesn't hit unless done right. I love the idea of the only one bed trope, right? Like sharing a bed with your crush. Ooh, but I feel like often what's done is that it's like in enemies to lovers, only one bed. And I just don't think that hits as well. I'm gonna be honest. And I think that's like the context that a lot of people love this trope in. But for me, I only really like only one bed when it is two people who have been like pining for each other for a while and they have to like stop themselves from like rolling into the other person or like touching them or caressing them. Chef's kiss. That shit is perfection, okay? But when it comes to like an enemies to lovers, like they're having to begrudgingly share a bed, I'm not into it unless, this is like a very interesting distinction, unless it is a fantasy romance enemies to lovers situation in which they are on the road and they have to stop at an inn and share a bed together, or they have to like share a bedroll, you know what I mean? Like a sleeping bag on the ground situation. That kind of hits enemies to lovers, but otherwise, I just like don't really love an enemies to lovers, only one bed. I love it for sight. I'm gonna say it doesn't hit unless done right. I know a lot of people are gonna say not a vibe, not a fan. They don't love that insta love, and you know what? I think love at first sight is one of those things that is definitely overdone, and I'm not into insta-love. However, when I think of love at first sight, I think of you seeing someone who you think is like just so beautiful and just so perfect for you, and maybe you see them interact with someone else on the other side of a room, and you're just picking up a good vibe from them, and you're like, I need them. That's definitely not how this should be interpreted, but that's how I'm going, that's what I'm going with, okay? I eat that up. I want people to be pining for each other forever, and for me, like, love at first sight kind of gives the opportunity for that, right? So I'm gonna say I like it, okay? I do. Not unless it's done right, but I do like it. He awakens. Okay, next trope. Love triangle. I'm gonna go with I usually enjoy it. Again, I know this is a really unpopular opinion, but anything to raise the angst and the stakes and the tension. I love a good love triangle. Now, is it hard to pull off? Certainly. And I feel like I could put this in doesn't hit unless done right, but I think even when it's done poorly, I like it. I like the idea that someone is having to contend with two potential love interests. If it were my life, I would certainly love to be in a love triangle. I have two delicious options to choose between. It's giving main character energy. I certainly really love this trope. I think it's fun. Okay, I do. I'm unapologetic about my love of love triangles. Am I going to write my own love triangle when I write my own book? Absolutely. Is it going to be polyamorous instead of like she has to choose between? Yes, obviously. Single parent trope. I think this one is gonna be not my fave, but also not my least fave. I like a single dad romance if it's done well. Melanie Harlow, obviously the queen of single parent romances, single dad romances specifically. I like it, but I do think sometimes when you have a single parent romance, you can have a parent who is neglectful, and it's not that I think the parent would actually be neglectful in real life, but they have to be neglectful because they are also falling in love with someone in that romance. And in the back of my head, I'm always like, yo, you're leaving your kid with their grandparents a lot. Like, I don't know if I'm like rooting for you and your romance because you're like not that great of a parent. Maybe that's silly. I don't know. It's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite. If it's done well and the kids are like funny and they bring the parents together, or like bring the single dad and like the nanny together or whatever, like I think it's cute. I really do like a single parent romance. Sometimes I'm gonna need like, I need you to show you're a good parent, okay? Friends to enemies to lovers. Absolutely put it at the freaking tippy top. This is god tier. This is god tier stuff. I love this trope. I think it's not done nearly enough. I just eat it up every time. Friends who were like starting to feel things for each other, or one person was feeling something for the other, and then something happens and they are enemies. They do not like each other, but then those old feelings of friendship are drawn up to where they have reason to be lovers. Yes. Here's the thing about enemies to lovers. I don't know if that's like a trope that's on here. I'm sure we'll get to it if it is, if it's just enemies to lovers. You know what it is. Let's put the enemies to lovers on here. I just really feel like enemies to lovers is overrated for so many reasons, and I think the main one is that there's not enough time spent with the characters actually getting to know each other, right? Most of the time. I think there's potential there, right? Like if you're enemies and you have to enter into this like begrudging friendship, or it's a fake dating enemies to lovers, or you know there's some reason for these two to get to know each other, I think that I vibe with it. But for the most part, I feel like authors just use that as an excuse for the characters to be mean to each other and them to fall in bed together. And I get that like there's tension there, sure, but it's not a tension that I find believable. And how am I supposed to think that like this relationship's gonna be working long term? Like in my eyes, I'm thinking, oh, okay, like y'all are attracted to each other, but you don't like each other. And I don't like that. Like I'm a realist, okay? Like I want to believe in this romance. Like if you put these two characters in front of me in real life, would I be like, oh yeah, they're meant for each other? Not normally with an enemies to lovers, but friends to enemies to lovers. It's finger licking good, okay? Age gap romances. I'm gonna go with I usually enjoy it. I don't always enjoy it, and I actually think that the older I get, the less that I vibe with age gap romances. It's one of those tropes, kind of like teacher-student, where I am not really into this trope in real life, but I think in a romance, it can be kind of like fun to explore the idea, especially when it is done in the right way, when there is like a lot of consent, there's not any sort of like dubious kind of like moral issues there. I think it can be fun, and I don't know, just like the idea of being taken care of by a wealthy man who's also like handsome and like not so much older than me, that sounds nice, okay? I'm not gonna lie, that sounds nice. I do enjoy that, but I think, yeah, the older I get, the more I feel like the more my red flags kind of go up when I'm reading these. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. So I'm gonna say I usually enjoy it, but like, I don't know. I think over time, this is gonna go down on my list. Accidental pregnancy. I don't hate accidental pregnancy as much as surprise pregnancy, which there is a distinction. Accidental pregnancy is like, oh no, we got pregnant, or I got pregnant with a one-night stand, but that person like knows about it. And then surprise pregnancy is usually, in my opinion, where you like hide the pregnancy from the person you're with. So with accidental pregnancy, I'm just gonna go with not a vibe / fan. I don't hate when the heroine in a story is pregnant. Like I don't think that's terrible, but it's just not really like my vibe. I would prefer a marriage and babies ending. Like, oh, we've fallen in love, we've gotten together, and then the baby comes next. I think there's always like a little bit in the back of my head thinking like, okay, you got this person pregnant, y'all are trying to make it work, and maybe you do make it work, but also like the whole reason that you're being brought together is because of this baby, and like if there wasn't a baby, would you have wanted anything to do with each other? I don't know. Maybe that's cynical, but I just like, it's not my favorite trope, okay? Not a vibe, not a fan. Bully romance. I'm gonna say I usually enjoy it. I feel like there's not a good category for this one for me, okay? Because I don't want to say that I usually enjoy it, because there's so many bad bully romances that I've tried to read over the years, but I don't want to say that it's not one of my favorite tropes, because I do enjoy it. This sounds weird, okay? Because I know this is technically the highest tier, but I don't mean it like that. I just mean that if it's a bully romance and I'm intrigued, I will read it. I will read it because there's just something so satisfying. To me, it's like a comfort read, like a comfort trope. I know that like for a lot of people, their comfort trope or something is like dystopian or the things that they grew up with. For me, it's bully romance, you know, hook, line, and sinker, you got me. I just love a bully romance, and I know that it's wrong. But if it's wrong, I don't want to be right. All right, next up, brother's best friend. I think I'm gonna go with not my fave, but also not my least favorite. I feel like this trope is overdone, and the reason that I don't like it is because I think the forbidden aspect of it is twisted. Like, I don't think that most people's brothers would really care if you dated their best friend. You know what I mean? Like in real life, that just doesn't feel like a very realistic trope. Now, if you were dating, or if you attempted to date your current boyfriend's best friend, now that is some angst and tension. That's something I get behind. But your brother's best friend, like, why would he care? He's probably just like, okay, whatever. Even if his best friend's like a fuckboy, like, I really don't think he would be that invested in his sister's romantic relationship that he would try to like make sure they didn't get together. Like, to me, the forbidden aspect is missing there. And so for that reason, I just tend to not care. And then also, I feel like a lot of the times the brother's annoying. I'm reading one right now, literally. I'm reading a brother's best friend romance, and I'm like, oh, this would be so fun if like the brother didn't exist. Honestly, no, I'm moving this to not a vibe, not a fan. I actually really just don't like this trope. I will read it, and sometimes it's done well, but for the most part, I'm just like not a fan. Friends with benefits to lovers. I'm gonna say it doesn't hit unless it's done right. I normally just like don't love this kind of trope. Exceptions definitely would be something like the kiss quotient, where there's a reason for there to be a friends to benefits relationship and for them not to want to gain feelings for each other. That makes sense to me, and that I like genuinely kind of enjoyed. And I think there's been other circumstances where I've enjoyed this trope, but I think usually it's like not my favorite. I don't really like sex scenes at the beginning of books. I'm very transparent about that here on my channel. It's definitely not like a moral standing kind of thing. Like I really don't care when people decide to have sex in their relationships, but in a book I think it breaks attention too early. So workplace romance, get rid of it. I hate workplace romances. I'm sorry, I do. For some reason, this one bothers me more than others. And you know what I think it is? I think I'm just so sick of like the alpha hero in a workplace romance. Like usually it's an enemies to lover situation, or they kind of like butt heads at work, or oh my god, I didn't know he was my boss, or oh my god, I didn't know he's my coworker. I just don't care. And there's something so the opposite of sexy to me when you have two people in an office together. It just feels sterile. It feels clinical and not sexy. I just don't no. Strangers to lovers. I don't know what this means. I'm gonna say I haven't read this. Like what is strangers to lovers? It's like a meet cute situation and then they get to know each other. I just really don't know. What does this mean? Someone enlighten me. Childhood friends to lovers is like A tier. S tier. It's everything to me. I am a childhood friends to lovers truther. I just think it's the best trope ever. I think that there's so much potential there to have this like built-in, baked-in relationship. There's so much potential as an author to have like good flashback scenes to get the reader to understand like why these two should be together. I love it. I know a lot of people don't like it because they're like, oh, why didn't the person like admit their feelings for the other person? But listen up. I think the tension potential there is endless, right? Like You have two characters who know each other innately, who've seen each other at their best and worst. This friendship is so important to them because the other person knows them so innately, and the potential to ruin a friendship is there. Like, you don't want to ruin this friendship by admitting your feelings to the other person, and need I say more, okay? It's God tier, love. Slow burn. I'm gonna say it doesn't hit unless it's done right, because I love the idea of slow burn. I love the idea of like not having two characters like bang it out at the beginning of a book, but I think sometimes this is an excuse by authors to write books that are bloated and too long. I really don't like books that exceed like 350, maybe 400 pages for a romance. I like some of Mariana Zapata's books, like I love her, and I feel like you have to bring her up when you're talking about slow burn, but I just don't think romances need to be 600 plus pages. I just don't. I just think that that's asking a lot from a reader, especially when you get like one kind of weird sex scene where the word penis is used, you know? Like, I think it has to be done right. Next up, One of Us is Famous. I'm gonna say get rid of it. I know that some people really enjoy the fame trope, but I just feel like oftentimes you have one character who feels inadequate next to the famous person. That is like part of the situation, you know? Oh, this person has been like into this celebrity for a long time and then they get together. I feel like that's often what happens. And then like the celebrity has to be undercover. Just nothing about the trappings of fame really like vibes. I don't really vibe with it. Every once in a while I think I'm into it, but I think just overall I could definitely do without this trope. So no. I hate everyone else in the world but you. Get rid of it. Absolutely get rid of it. This is giving Grumpy Sunshine vibes. This is giving hero who is the worst and giving red flag vibes. I don't want a guy who is only nice to me. Like, that's horrible. That is a horrible trope. He's gonna be horrible to my family and my friends, but he's gonna be nice to me. Like, no. Absolutely not. Right person, not enough time. I think I'm gonna say I haven't read that. I don't know what the distinction really is between right person, wrong time, and then right person, not enough time. Like, is that person dying or something? I'm gonna say I haven't read it. But if I have, like, if it is like because the person's dying or something, no. Friends to lovers, I'm also gonna say I'll read any book with this trope. I just love this trope. I mean, I don't care if it's childhood friends to lovers or if it's like adult friends to lovers. I just like friends to lovers. I think a good friendship is an important part of a romantic relationship, and I want it in my romance. Good boy, bad girl. This one, I think I'm gonna put in the same category as the bad boy, good girl trope. I think I like the idea of it. Do I think that it is always the best? No. I feel like oftentimes when this trope's like done in the reverse, I feel like the guy always kind of sucks. Like, I don't know. I feel like in my ideal situation, I want a really nice guy, but I don't want him to be like a goody two shoes. And I feel like that's typically what happens when you've got this trope. Okay, so we are making the distinction between love at first sight and insta love. So I'm gonna put insta love, get rid of it. Like, I'm gonna put not a vibe, not a fan. I don't think I feel as strongly about insta love as other people do. I definitely don't think this is like the strongest romance trope ever. I don't necessarily like totally love it, but I don't think it's the worst trope ever. I think like sometimes it can lead to interesting conversations down the road with the hero and the heroine. Like, maybe it's insta love and then they have to like work through their issues. I don't know. I think it gets a bad rap. I think sometimes it can be fun, like a fun lead up to a situation, but it's not my favorite. Billionaire romances, get rid of. Here's the thing. It's not that I don't want a billionaire, right? Well, okay. Maybe not billionaire. I could do a millionaire. It's not even that like billionaires are gross. It's that I don't really like the power dynamic issues with that. For some reason, like billionaire romances, the power dynamics are always much grosser than the age gap romance relationship dynamics. And I don't know why that is, but I think I'm just like very sick of these billionaire romances where you've got like this naive virginal girl and this dude who's like, I just want to smack your ass. Like, I think billionaire, I think 50 Shades. I just do. And maybe that's like my own problem, but I feel like I've read a lot of them at this point and they all kind of feel the same way. So just, I'm done with this trope. It is very like workplace romance to me. Like, they go hand in hand and I don't like it. Royalty romance. I think I'm gonna put this one at not my fave, but also not my least fave. I think sometimes I like a royalty romance, and I think this one is more interesting to me than like a celebrity sort of romance, like One of Us is Famous. Next up is secret relationship. And this one, I don't think I really have read many books with secret relationships, but I think I'm gonna put I usually enjoy it because in my head, I'm picturing like what a secret relationship romance might look like. And I like the stakes and tension of having to like hide your romance from the people in your life. I think that can be kind of fun. I mean, I don't want like the whole book to be a secret romance or a secret relationship, but I think if that's like one of the tropes in the story, I think it could be fun. So I'm gonna say that I usually enjoy this, even though I can't think of a book that I've read with this trope. All right, I'm looking at the rest of these tropes. Some of these seem like ones that we've already kind of gone through. Best friend's brother, I don't think we've done. We've done brother's best friend, but not best friend's brother. And I think this one, I'm gonna say hit unless done right. I think I like this one more than brother's best friend, but it's still not my favorite trope. But I do think there is something to be said for like dating your best friend's brother. I think like that could definitely make things a little bit awkward because it's like, I don't know, I feel like your best friend has more of a reason to be like upset at you than your brother. Like, why would he care? But like your best friend might care if you're dating like their brother. You know what I mean? I think the distinction matters. Oh, marriage of convenience. This to me is like just as good as fake dating. I love a good marriage of convenience novel. It's a good way to get two people together. To me, this is very similar to a surprise pregnancy or like accidental pregnancy romance because you have a reason for these two people to like really make it work. Fake dating, it's like less, the stakes are a little bit lower, and it's like a little bit more fun. Marriage of convenience, I feel like it's a little bit more hard hitting, but I like it and I think it's better than like a surprise pregnancy because you can get out of it, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day they could get a divorce, whereas like if you have a baby with someone, like the baby's forever. I don't know if any of that's making sense, but I do like this trope a lot. I actually do think it's a really fun one. I don't think this bug flying around is very fun. Stepbrother romance. I'm gonna say that I just haven't read I certainly have read this trope before, but I just don't think I've read enough books with this trope to really have an opinion on whether or not I like this one. Morality surrounding it is a bit suspicious. Those are my tier rankings of popular romance tropes. I hope that y'all enjoyed this. I feel like I should have something profound to say after like tier ranking all of these different romance tropes, but you know, I had a good time with it. Let me know, I guess, in the comments if any of these surprised you or like you thought that I would rate things differently. But I do think this is like a pretty good understanding of like how I feel about things and like what I'm into. If Mutual Pining was on here, oh, it'd be game over. That would be like above all of these tiers. But you know me, I'm here for the angst and tension, and I'm not here for the silliness, okay? So thanks for watching. I love y'all so much, and until next time.